Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Photographer Life Check. I'm your host, Qurissy, and today I have such an incredible guest with me. We have the travel photographer,
Hey y'all.
Dakotah. How you doing, babe?
I am doing so good, even better. Yeah, things have been good. Busy, which is good. Like I feel like as a photographer,
Good.
as an artist, when you're like busy, it's a lot, but good. It's grateful. I'm grateful to be
Okay.
busy. Booked and busy.
Booked and busy.
Booked
That's
and
when you
busy.
getting paid.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. So I want to start off this episode with a little photographer fit check. If you are tuning in for the first time, photographer fit check is where we get into all of the things that we wear to set. So today, this is
Mm,
the set.
love it.
So you could just talk about something on you. You don't got to stand up. It could be your shirt, your scarf, some jewelry, however you feeling.
So I'm gonna go with my headscarf.
Which I
I found this.
love.
Thank you. I normally I'm just like I have like a bright red one or a green one, but this time I'm like
I
such in
love
my
your
like
one.
but this time I'm like okay, I'm in my neutral bag. Like once I drop into my neutral era, that's like a it's a thing. So, but I love this one. I found this. I think just thrifting, but it just, when you like find something and it just kind of like speaks to you. Where I was like, man, I
Yeah.
love the pattern of it, the color. Like, even though it's like two colors, I was like, it makes sense.
Girl, it's really giving neo soul and the wave in the hair. You feel like it's springtime, A Marie almost.
I
Like we're
mean,
about to strut
yeah,
down the street
yeah.
because the sun is shining.
The sun is shining. It's been beautiful lately, so I am
It has been
happy
so
to be here.
beautiful. That's been making me so happy.
So
I I
happy.
I love the rain, honestly. I really do.
I do too.
Um, but when it's like every day for a week, it's
Too
too much
much.
for
I'm
me.
like, I will take it in doses.
I wanted in doses,
In doses.
So
Yep.
I've been real happy that it's nice and sunny.
Me too. Me too.
Well, my photographer fit check for the day is some Bloom and Plume merch. Rest in
I
peace,
love
Bloom
Bloom
and
and Bloom. Yes.
Plume. Miss them. The favorite neighborhood coffee shop. We love y'all.
We do.
Okay, beautiful. Let's get into the photographer life check of it all. Photographer life check is just a literal life check in. It could be career based, personal based, however you feeling today, whatever you want to talk about. So,
Mm.
photographer life check. How's your life?
Photographer life check. Life is good. Life has been really good lately. I feel like there there's been a lot going on in LA in general and just like
Girl.
with everything. We all if you know, you know. We all know.
Okay.
Um but I think there's also this I was actually talking to a couple other artists too. There's this like energy that's going on where it's like something is on the rise for us. I don't know what that looks like, but it just feels like things are kind of in this upward swing right now.
Mm.
And I feel like I'm kind of just riding that wave where I'm like, don't forget about me, like take me with you
Right.
type of thing. Oh my God. So, because I feel like last year it was like a don't make me beg energy. I'm like, please, like hire me,
Mm.
don't make me beg. Or
Okay.
this year it's kind of leaning into like okay, like people are reaching out, like things are feeling like they're on an upswing. So I don't
Nice.
know if you felt that, but it's a little bit of it's good, it's positive, but it's still rough. Don't get me wrong, it's still rough, but I think
Hmm.
we're seeing some light.
Yeah, I think it's a little weird or maybe even uncomfortable because sometimes during these last few months I have felt like a real positive shift for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
but our country, our city, like everything around
Everything.
us feels like a downward spiral. So it feels a bit
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable that I'm like, damn, I feel like I have so much to be proud of right now, so much to
Yeah.
be excited about right now. But everything else is
Right.
not looking too good. So
But I feel like it's like all the more reason to keep that, where it's like if we
yeah,
all fall into the pit together, like someone's gotta keep us
somebody gotta
somebody
keep
gotta
us
keep the
afloat.
light.
I'm trying.
Oh man.
I'm trying. Even with this podcast, there was definitely a moment where I felt a little silly, where I'm like, am
Hmm.
I doing like this silly little art thing while we're all really worried about like literal policy that is affecting our everyday life? But I mean, I talked to other people about it a little bit, but honestly, I was just
Mm-hmm.
plaguing my own mind.
Absolutely. And
And I was
it
like, "Oh, girl, we need to hold on to our
we
silly little
need to, exactly. And it's just like that is like anything that brings the light, like we have to hold on to those things. So I
yeah.
love it. Like as soon as you put this out, I was like, yes. I was like, the world needs
Yay.
more Qurissy.
Oh, thank you. Period.
Right?
Honestly. Okay, so for those who might not know, Dakotah is this incredible travel photographer. Also, just a traveler, a world traveler. And I love talking to you about all of the travels. Also, not to get too much in her business, but
Get
she
into it.
always has like beautiful little trinkets around her home from her travels, which is something that I just personally love. So I want to talk a little bit about your travel bug and
Yes.
how you're able to marry travel and photography, especially for those who are trying to figure out how to do it for themselves.
Absolutely. So that kind of started when I'd always loved storytelling. Like ever since I was a kid, like you could talk to my mom, like she was like, you were just scribbling things on paper. None of it was coherent. None of it made sense. I have no idea. Couldn't tell you what I was writing about, but
We
I was
can tell you
writing.
about the story, but the story
Talking
gonna
about
get
the story.
told.
But it was there. It exists. So I always had this like drive for storytelling. I don't know why. I think, whatever it was, but then it stuck with me. And then when I got a camera put in front of me, I was like, oh, like I can visually storytell without having to like talk so much. And I was
Mhm.
very quiet as a kid, very shy. So a camera, I was like, oh, like I can still tell my stories and not have to like really speak to people.
Mm,
They speak for
mhm.
themselves. So I think when I had my camera, I started taking pictures. I didn't really take photography seriously until a bit later in life, but I brought a camera with me on my first trip to Europe. And my girl and I went to Europe for 1 month. That was like my first time, like really like out on our own. Like, no, it wasn't with family. It was like just us in the middle of like
Amazing.
a new
Yeah.
place. And I had no idea what to expect, but I had my camera. And so I was just snapping like everything. Like, I didn't even know at the time that I liked travel photography. I was like, I'm just going to take photos of whatever I see and
Yeah.
like it's gonna be something. I don't know. Like I didn't even have plans to share it. I was just like, I'm gonna just take pictures. And so I got home and I was like looking through everything and I was like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. And I just shared it. I think I shared it on like Facebook or something like low list. And the feedback from it was so like, wow, like I had never like seen it this way. I didn't even know this place existed or like, and it just like created such a conversation about my travels. And I think there was a lot of people that were like, what's it like traveling, as a woman like that? What's it like, carrying an expensive piece of equipment out into the world? And so that was kind of my first draw into travel photography. And from
Mhm.
there, I went to South America for 3 months. I went to Morocco for a month. Went to Panama, like Mexico City. So it's just been so grateful to have those experiences and continue to do so. Haven't been on a trip in a little
Yeah.
bit, but definitely on the coming up. But I think one of the things that I really learned. I mean, there's so much to get into about it, but I think for me, it's such a experience and like the camera is just the tool. Like there's so much that goes
Mm,
into travel photography, and I think
yeah.
it's so much more than just your photos. And we can get into like I have so many thoughts on like ethics of it and just like
Yes.
kind of how to move in a world where you don't necessarily know the culture or the language. And I think for me, like so I went solo a lot at the time. So after Europe, I would travel solo a lot. So Morocco was like my big first solo trip. I went completely alone, like
Wow.
didn't speak the language. I was just like, I'm just gonna go because it's beautiful and I've heard, really beautiful things and I was like, I'm interested. So I left and I learned so much on that trip. So, so,
Yeah.
so, so much about being a woman, being a black woman,
Mm.
and then traveling alone, like so many things. Things I can't tell my mama yet because I was like, girl, she knew I was out there, like got into
Ooh.
that situation. I was like, oh Lord, but I will say it is so empowering. Like even camera aside, like solo traveling is the most empowering thing I think I've ever done in my life. Like I'm so grateful for those experiences because it really just forces you to like your independence. It forces you to like
Mm-hmm.
make yourself uncomfortable. It forces you to like expand who you are. It challenges you in so many ways. And like one of my big things is like as a human, you cannot grow without challenges. Like you cannot, you
Mm.
have to put yourself into vulnerable situations. Otherwise, like you're just going to be a caterpillar your whole life. Like when
Right.
all the time you
Come
was a
on. A
butterfly, like,
bar.
you
A
know?
bar. Come on, Dakota.
You know, so I really found my wings traveling. It was just
Mm.
so they just instantly were like, yes, like this is where I'm supposed to be. Um, so even beyond like the photos, it's so much of like learning about a new culture, like diving into something that like is going to make you uncomfortable initially, but like, and also like, okay, great, like be uncomfortable. Like, I think as Americans, we need to step out into places where, because we're such like, everyone has to make us feel comfortable. America's all about you
Mm.
speak our language, you know, our
Mm-hmm.
traditions, and like, and even though we're a melting pot, you know, we're still just like assimilate to our standards so that we understand
Right.
versus
Yeah.
like when you go out into the world it's like, oh, no one's doing the like everyone has their own thing, and it's so like beautiful to go and be uncomfortable, to not know what the language is, to like not know what's on the menu, but I'm gonna just eat it anyways because like learn something new.
Yeah.
So that part was just so eye-opening to me, which I think if that didn't exist, my photos wouldn't be what they were.
Mm.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
when you're traveling, to keep in mind, like, it's not necessarily even like for you, like, you're stepping into like someone else's home, essentially. So you kind of have to keep the mindset of like, this isn't your home, you know, don't try and make it your home. Be a
There you
guest.
go.
Be a guest.
Okay, be a guest
Be
and
a
be a good.
guest. And be a good guest. Be a good guest. And so I think for me, that's like the biggest thing that I kind of take and try to share is like when you're in someone else's home, like it becomes like make the story about them. Don't make it your story. It's like make it for them. And you can still, you know, experience it in your eyes. You can, you know, but it's when you're telling that story, make sure you know what story you're even talking about. Get to know the people, get to know the food. Like,
Yeah.
that's actually my first rule when I'm traveling is day one, no camera. Just go walk, go talk to
Ah.
people, go try the food. Like, don't even no pictures.
Yeah.
Because it just makes you like, you know, you have to get into it first. You have to understand where
Where
you
you
are.
are, right?
Exactly.
Well, thinking about like this ethics conversation and I love the pinpoint you made about like really finding yourself. I want to talk about, I'm going to pull up Dakotah's website. For those who are listening and might not know, you can also watch us specifically on Spotify and YouTube. So you can follow along. All links, of course, are always in the description box, but you can follow along while we talking. So I'm going to pull up this part of your website and maybe you can give us a little bit of insight on how you even found this.
My
So I
baby.
was Girl, so I was really attracted to this one because I mean I learned something off the rip. I didn't know this was the last undeveloped traditional pueblos in Guanacaste. Is that how you
Yeah.
say that?
Yes, it is.
Guanacaste. And so I'm curious, when you're traveling, how are you learning these facts about the places? And then I would love to understand your ethics around like how you move when you are photographing the space.
Absolutely. So Marbella has such a close place. I love that you chose this one because this is such a special place for me. So
Oh,
this is in Costa Rica, and I had been to Costa Rica before, but it was much more of like the tourism side of it. And I was like, okay, like, you know, it's cool, it's gorgeous, obviously. You're in the middle of a jungle. I'm like, how could I be mad anyway?
okay.
But I think when we come into these overly touristy places, it's like a little America inside of someone else's home where I'm like,
Definitely.
this
Yeah.
isn't, you know, like I didn't come here. I don't want to, and it's that, you know, obvious gentrification, but it's like, why this shouldn't be happening. Like they should be not they, we, like it is, you know, our problem. But anyway, so I was like, okay, but I know there's something else out there in Costa Rica where they're not assimilating to American culture. So I was just kind of doing my research, and I actually came across this Airbnb. So that's the first time that I had even heard about Marbella. So I came across this
Mm.
Airbnb, and it was like in the middle of nowhere in the jungle, gorgeous, like jungle all around, no tourism. And I was like, I need to post up there. I was like, I need to do that.
Mm.
Like that sounds so beautiful. And so, actually, the photo of the dog is that home.
Aw.
Yeah. And so I got there, and girl, the trip to, because you have to go from Liberia, the airport,
Hmm.
and drive into Marbella, but it's all like dirt roads, but just like because the rainfall is so heavy, and so it carves these like massive like grooves into the road, and so it
Hmm.
takes like what should have taken like an hour to get there. It takes like 3 to 4 because you have to drive so slow into, which also I love because it just plays on the like you really have to be patient, and like it's so peaceful, and it just causes you to slow down. Like everything
Yeah.
is slowed down, which is so like wonderful. But anyway, so I got there and, did my leave the camera at home, go take a walk around, and I ended up talking to my host who was like, she was at a bar, in like, it was like a tiny little, town, I guess. And then they have like one bar, one grocery store. And I ran into her and we just got to talking where we were just talking about the people, why she is there, like what she loves about it, what to go do. And of course she's like, well, you came here, so I'm not going to tell you like the touristy things. Like I'm going to tell you like the local things. And she was
Period.
like,
Know
go
me.
here.
Yes.
And I was like, thank you. So really through talking to her, shout out to Noria if she's ever listening, but,
Oh, hey, Noya.
she just put me on to like, and that's the thing. It's like, you just gotta talk. Like, you just gotta talk to people, not be afraid of like interaction, like not be afraid. Cause like my Spanish girl is,
Dakotah, how? How do we talk to people? How do we talk to strangers?
you just gotta do. And like, I think the thing that, I mean, I can't speak for them, but what I've experienced is they just appreciate you trying. Like you don't have to. You can have
Mm.
broken Spanish. The way my Spanish is so broken, but I try. I'm not trying to like. I'm trying not to be anything that I'm not. I'm like this is me. Take me as I am, or or
Yeah.
you don't have to talk to me. But I found that as long as you're just honest, you're genuine, you're yourself, you show up as yourself, you're like, I'm always like, I don't speak much Spanish, but I can speak a little and have like that conversation, and you
So
just
I
work
think,
with people.
yeah. So do you try to learn like photography based phrases for the people that you talk to on the street? Like, do you try to learn like, hey, can I take a picture of you? Or do you think it's like not that deep?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I did learn that in, South America. So when I was there, I
Okay.
was like, okay, I do want to ask. That's a whole other thing that we should talk about is how do you how do you capture something without asking? And so that's one thing where when I when I felt like I should, I would ask. I learned how to say like,
Mm-hmm.
"Puedo sacar una foto?" And most
Okay.
people are, would say like, oh, yes, or, these two perfect examples. So I had asked them both Spanish speaking. This was in Panama. And I, came up to both and, asked them, can I take your photo? And they were both like, oh yeah, like sure. And, I said a little bit about like, I'm a photographer, I would
Mm.
love to like tell a bit of your story. And most people more often than not are very like receptive to it. Um, and even when they're not, it's just like cool, yeah, like respect, by all means.
Yeah.
And but what I will say though is I actually had a really good learning experience in Morocco where I Morocco is such a like for I mean photographers, if you've ever been, like everything is photographable. It's
My goodness.
so beautiful, like the colors, the food, like it's so visually stunning. And just the culture in general, even outside of like the physically stunning, it's just like so rich, and so like it's a really beautiful place.
Yeah.
Um, but I was on a tour. It was like a small group of us, and we were originally out in the dunes. Like we had like an overnight, trip in the dunes, and then came back to this really really small town. Um, and I think the idea was kind of just to like learn a bit more about Moroccan culture and kind of see life outside of the big city. And so I have my camera, and I was walking around. I was like, oh, this is gorgeous. And we entered this town, And there was a woman, well, there were a lot of women, out just their date. I think it was a Sunday, so they're having a Sunday, afternoon.
Mm.
And I was taking some photos of like the houses, and then I had pointed it towards a woman. And immediately she just like froze up and like went back inside. And
Mm.
my tour guide was like, oh, like, came to me and he was like, you actually can't take photos of the women because of their, cultural morals is like, uh, for the woman, if she's seen on, the internet or something, it's for her marriage, she could potentially be like divorced. And
Mm.
so that was a role where I was like, oh, like in that moment I was like, damn, like I really need to like do better as a photographer in this moment of like I need to like learn what's okay and what's not okay. Like really,
Yeah.
talk to someone about like what are the morals here? Like what are the things that I should like look out for? And really doing my research before just assuming that, I can just take pictures of anything. So that was a really good learning moment, where most of the
Mm-hmm.
photos where I'm taking of people are either men or people that I've asked like, hey, is that okay if I take your photo? Um, and so, yeah, it's things like that where you really have to, I think, especially when you're in a new place, of really getting to know like the culture, get to know, what's okay. Cause there it's like, it's also like how you dress, you dress a bit more conservatively and that's very respectful.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, don't just go and assume that, I mean, you can, Americans do it, people do it all the time, but it's like, I think if you're going to be capturing someone else's home, ask them how their home should be captured, or do
Mm.
your own research so going in there how to show up in someone's home. Um, and I think with the ethics of it, so that's such a. I know you, Sid and I had this conversation in Austin where we were talking about street photography, right? Because the
Yeah.
beauty of street photography is these candid moments. So majority of street photography, you can't ask someone.
Right. You lose
You
the
would lose the photo.
moment.
You would lose the moment. So you can't really ask someone, but then that goes into the ethics of, well, what's that line? And honestly, I think there are moments where you do kind of just have to like in your own head make that decision and quick, like so quickly, like is this something that I should be taking a photo? So I think a couple of questions that I've started to ask myself is why am I taking this photo and like who is it for at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day? And when I'm in outside of America, I think who is this for and who's going to see this plays in my head a little bit more because I'm like, I don't want to just, post these and like profit off of just, the photo or someone's life where I haven't taken the time to learn the story or learn the history of their home. And
Mm.
so when I post things from different countries, I love to give like a story of like here was what my conversation was like. Here's what I learned from being in this town, from being in this city, like just a little bit of background. So when I am sharing, it's not just like, capitalizing off of someone's home without giving any context. Like my whole point of sharing those photos is like pushing people to like get to know these places, right? Like you should do
Yeah.
your research on you. There's a massive world outside of America that most people don't even know about and let alone take the time to like learn. I think the way that we are such like us versus them country versus
Mm.
like we're all on the same, should be all on the same side. Like what do we like talk about? Like the us versus
Yeah.
them shouldn't be like the people versus it should be like, what
Hello.
that's a whole, let me not get into we'll get into that another day. But so I think there's just a lot of thoughts when you're in a different home. Like in America, I will say I'm a little less where I'm like, okay, like if you out in the streets and I see a photo and I want to like take it because I'm like at some level we understand our home to an extent. I do think
Mm.
there are certain situations where you should ask people, but I think for me personally, I'm a little less hesitant to ask here
Maybe it's
versus
because you're at home.
yeah, exactly. Maybe. And so, yeah, I think there's just things to ask yourself of, and even if you're not necessarily doing like a photojournalism approach. I personally
Hmm.
just love photojournalism because that, ties it into my journalistic background and just storytelling. But even if you're not going to tell the story, for your viewers, at least have that in yourself to go and learn it before you're taking the photo. I think that's so important of like wherever you are, if it's something different, something that's making you uncomfortable, before you share it, learn what it is you're even sharing.
Yeah.
So that if someone does ask you about it, you can share something that goes along with the photo. It's not just like a stunning photo. It's like, oh, here's the photo, but here's what makes the photo the photo.
Yeah. So I'm curious then, after you take the shot, for example, like the one with the two women in Panama, you ask them for the photo, or even the one right next to it where assumingly like a mom and her baby.
Hmm.
Do you tell them like, hey, if you want to see this photo, you can find it on my website later, or like what should you be telling these people when you're just doing street photography? Should you be telling them anything?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think sometimes like when it's more intimate, I'll say, I'm a photographer. Do you mind if I take your photo? Usually I'll say, it's from my website. Are you comfortable with that? And
Mm.
most of the time they're like, sure, yeah. And I think I kind of leave it up to them of, if you want to see it, usually, they'll be like, oh, like, where can I find you?
Yeah.
Versus, because I never want to come off like I'm trying to like sell it back to them. So I'm kind of just
Um,
like, can I take your photo? And like I love whatever, and like talk to them a little bit about who they are and what they're doing, and just their life a little bit. Even if it's like a minute long conversation, I think just having that connection, like broken Spanish or not, broken whatever language or not, like just
yeah.
forming a connection, so they're like, oh, I'm not just seeing you as like this object that I'm just gonna
Or
take
like
a photo
somebody
of.
invasive, yeah.
Exactly. And part of me is like photo colonialism is like a thing too,
Yeah.
and so I think there's a level of just make that connection, whether it's 2 seconds, whether it's an hour. Like I had another connection. I met these two people just walking, and he had an art gallery, and I was like, oh, like, can I take your photo? I ended up staying 5 hours just talking. We were just talking about life and Panama, and it was great. But I think,
Do
however
you
short. Mhm.
go ahead, babe.
Oh no, I was just saying, however short that connection is, like, just form it. Just go out of your way to form it, either before or after you take the photo. Is so important.
Yes. I was gonna ask, how do you find yourself, or like, do you have tips for folks to find themselves in situations where they can foster those types of experiences when they're traveling, where it's like, oh, I just met this person and ended up hanging out for 5 hours and got all these photos and all these experiences from that. I know
Yeah.
you mentioned like one trip you had a tour guide, but I don't imagine you have a tour guide always.
Right, exactly. So honestly, I think with that is you really just have to like not be afraid to put yourself out there. And I think for me, like that's one thing where, especially traveling solo, is like you just have yourself. So at a certain point, you start to
Right.
go a little crazy. We're like, I just need human interaction selfishly. But I think the other part of it is just trusting that whether it's a yes or whether it's a no, whether you get rejected or end up having this great conversation, like you have nothing to lose. Like if
Mm,
you go up and they say no, they're like, no, I'm not interested. Cool, you're right back where you were before. Versus just trying, and then it opens it into so many things. It's such a like learning experience. So I would say just don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Like just get in there, be like, if you feel like drawn to someone, and I think that was one thing too, is you kind of just you could pick up on people's energy pretty quickly of like if they're open to even like a conversation, like you can kind of sense things pretty easily.
mm,
And I think you just have to be aware, just be mindful, like, be very like, okay, is this person a little cold? Are they warm? Are they like
yeah.
showing inviting, or look at their body language? Are they? So I think just being mindful of that and kind of going with your own intuition about it, I guess. But people will,
Yeah.
eventually they'll show you, they'll tell you whether or not they want to participate or, get to know you. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And maybe if it's your first time, I would suggest going to an English speaking country to like get your feet wet.
Yes.
So some countries in Europe or even like certain
Hmm.
towns, like is it Liberia or like San Jose in Costa Rica where like English is damn near the second
Yeah,
language? Stuff
exactly.
like
And
that.
exactly. And Costa Rica is a good one because most people speak English there. Well, that's their second language. So
Right.
yeah, something like that I think is such a great opportunity, especially if you're going to be solo traveling to just like, don't dive right into a country like, I think if Morocco had been my very first trip ever, I would have been like, oh my gosh, like I don't
Right. Like
know.
it would have been too much.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm grateful that I had my experiences leading up to that one because it was uncomfortable, but I was just like, okay, cool. Like, I'm used
Right.
to this, discomfort and it's fine. I can navigate. So yeah.
And don't
I
forget
think
Google Translate or any
Google best
translating
friend.
app,
Girl, I
babes.
have all the apps. If you're traveling,
Okay.
all of the apps.
Which I actually do really want to get into. I think there's like two sides to this question. So the first side is like maybe name five things that as a travel photographer like you think are essentials. Like if you want to get
Mm,
into this, here's some things you got to bring or got to do or something like that.
yeah, absolutely. So one thing I'm actually learning now is it's the type of camera is like so important because if you're going to be carrying around a heavy camera all day or like wherever, it's like it takes its energy. And if you're hiking or if you're like out in the sun and you're just carrying this like huge piece of like equipment, on you, it's
Mm,
just, and it's not discreet. I think it kind of turns people off in some ways where it's like, and it's also just like, I'm a tourist. Like, there's nothing that says more of like,
right.
I'm a tourist
Then
than
you got
carrying around.
a camera on your fucking neck.
Exactly, exactly. And so that's why I would highly recommend getting a compact camera. I
Okay.
did not have one. I had like this, and it wasn't massive, but I had like a big like Nikon camera that I would just carry, and it was like it would like hurt me. Where I was like, dang, like I don't even want to
Right, like
carry
it's
this.
bouncing on your hip while you're walking. Girl,
Yes,
yes.
exactly. And I couldn't just like casually like put it to the side and like, it was like a thing where I was just struggling and um so now when I travel it's a lot of like my film, cameras where it's like small, compact. I can put it to the side like a bag or something.
Mm,
Um and I also, I have a smaller I switched over to mirrorless. Girl, that was a whole thing too. But and that's a little bit more compact as well.
yeah.
So I would really recommend just like smaller, as compact as you can get, and it's so much faster for like capturing a shot. Like, ooh, like that bird is coming in quick. Let me just grab
Right.
that. Versus like, okay, let me like take it up to the side and like it's a whole thing. Um, so definitely mindful of the camera. Also, too, just as another just safety note of being mindful of your equipment even showing because wherever you are, America, like literally wherever you are, you always have to be mindful of, especially if you're traveling solo, of like you're going to be a target. If you have this expensive a piece of equipment on you, just know that just be protective of yourself. Um,
Can we talk about that for a little bit?
yeah,
Especially as a solo woman traveler, how do you keep yourself safe in this situation? I think
yeah.
with context, I personally hate looking like a stain. I don't never want to look like a target. So I try to move as discreetly as possible, but I also think that's like a big barrier for me in street photography.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
and I don't
absolutely.
I don't move throughout life assuming that people are trying to rob me or anything like that, but it's just like I understand
Hmm.
how people could be potentially perceiving me.
Right.
Also considering say you're in another country that isn't, I'm using air quotes, isn't as developed as the states,
Hmm.
because I feel like contextually there's a lot in there that we could dissect, but isn't as developed as the states. You're
Right.
obviously not from there. You then obviously look American or European to somebody,
Hmm.
and then you got this expensive looking camera on you.
Right.
And I just be like, you know what, never mind. I got my phone on me and that's all I need.
Right.
How do you manage to just like, I don't know, keep yourself safe in these situations?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one thing where initially I didn't know. That was something that I had to learn and like
Mm.
unfortunately like learn the hard way in
Oh
some
no.
some of it. And nothing
Damn.
like, I never had anything stolen, knock on wood. I heard, a lot of people are like, oh, I had this stolen, I had this stolen out of my back pocket I think there's also this like fear, right? Like my granddad and my Grammy, when they heard I was leaving for South America and Morocco, they're like, "What are you doing?" They're like, "No," like they're like, "Girl, you don't keep like no, sit
Get
your
your
ass
ass
down."
back here.
And they're like, what are you doing? Like, nah. And so, but I think for me, it's there's such a fear of other countries, such a fear of other countries. Where meanwhile, I'm like, what about America? Like, what? Like, it's maybe just as if not more, like whatever. Anyways, so,
Exactly.
um, so that's the whole other thing is like, if someone is like in your ear, like it's fearful, like confirmation bias, right? And I think that's
Mm.
one thing that like love the old heads. Don't get me wrong, but
Shout out to
I
those.
think shout out to the old heads, but they live in such a confirmation bias world where they'll see something on the news, they'll read something, and they're like, "Oh, that confirms my fear." Like they're only really
Mm-hmm.
searching for things that confirm their fears. So of course, you're gonna get the like text messages or the news articles like, "Baby, did you see like this happened there?" And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, yes, but like, what about all the other, great things? So they're very pick and choose what confirms their own biases. But and not to say like you should always be self aware when you're moving, solo or not in another country. But um, I think yeah. So as far as like if you're going solo, have equipment. It's just fortunately and unfortunately, is like keeping the mindset of, okay, I am a target. Tourists tend to be targets. Point
Right.
blank. Like wherever you
Right.
are, tourists tend to be targets. Because like Loki, we're easy to target. Like we wouldn't be targets if we
Yeah.
were easy to target. So I'm like some of these stories. I'm like, what?
Girl,
Well,
I be trying to blend in so hard anytime I
right.
travel. I'm like, this is my grocery store.
That's
I go here all the time.
exactly. And that's really like one of the things where I do try to blend in. And that's always like gotten me pretty far where I just been like, not one of y'all, to an extent.
Right.
Um but I do think there's a layer of it where you do have to keep in mind that not everyone is your friend, even if they try and be friendly. Like, and especially as a woman, like going out there solo as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, you kind of have to go into every, conversation, friendship, whatever you're forming with this extra layer of, okay, I just need to like keep a little bit of a wall up. I can't, don't go into detail
Yeah.
about where you're staying. Don't go,
Please.
go into too much detail about none of that. Like you can keep it peaceful, but just always be mindful of like hopefully the hope is that they're a good person and they're not trying to to
Right.
pull anything, but on the off chance, because it happens often, so just be mindful of the things that you're sharing, just not putting yourself into harm's way. Yeah, I think it's
I
just
follow I
mhm,
follow a couple solo travelers, and one thing that I hear them say all the time, which I think is like one of the best tips or notes you could hear, is that always say you're waiting on your friends, you're on your way to your friends, you just met up with some
mhm,
friends, something like that, so that no one ever assumes you're alone. People are
yes,
assuming you're with other people care about you, and if you were to go missing,
right, someone's
somebody would be
expecting you.
looking for you.
Exactly, yeah,
Right.
that part, yes,
And it's
absolutely.
unfortunate that women especially have to like live with that reality, but the truth is
Hmm.
that is the reality we live in.
That's the
But I think it's a
reality.
good note for anybody, for real. Like, just because you're a man or non-binary doesn't mean, non-binary and masculine presenting, doesn't
Right.
mean you can't be a target. So
Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah. And so I think, yeah, it's just moving through of like keeping that safety. You always have to have an extra layer of safety at all times. And there's really cool like things like I have this belt. It's like a kind of like a fanny pack, but it's like a fat, not fat, a flat fanny pack. And
mm-hmm.
so you basically like can put like your like cards and money. I put my passport in there too, and it goes like underneath your clothes, so it kind of just sits flat on your body versus like having
Mm-hmm.
it out versus having a bag, and that's just like an easy way to like just keep things safe.
Like nice on you. It's
Yeah.
it's that's tough for me because if I'm in Costa Rica, Babes, it's crop tops and
Right.
booty shorts. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not hiding nothing.
Right. It's crop top with that fanny pack though.
Okay, period.
You can get the tan line, the fanny pack tan line.
Okay, the fanny pack tan line.
Uh,
That's how you know you've been somewhere.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, back to the list. Okay, so we got make sure you have like a compact camera. I think Google Translate or any translating app is a good
Hmm.
one. Do you have maybe at least one more?
Yeah, this one doesn't necessarily have to do with your like photography site, but an app that I love is called Rome to Rio, like the number two Rio,
Mm-hmm.
and saved my life on like so many of just like transportation. So that's one thing where you get to even, I mean, LA is, we do not have the transportation that we should be having, but when you're
No.
in like a new place, even like a new state, a new country, like wherever you are in the world, it's it pulls up like every form of transportation that you can take. So if you're like, okay, I want to go
Oh.
from, you know, A to B, and I don't know how to get there, they'll be like, okay, you could take this flight. Here's how much it is. You could also take this train. Here's how much it is. You could take this bus. Here's how to get there.
Okay.
Here's how much it is. And it just pulls up like everything you need to know. And that was like a game changer for me, especially when you don't know the language as much. It's just like, cool. I can at least look at numbers. You know, I can see like where things are. Very helpful for navigating.
Okay.
That's another thing too. I would say is always know like where you're going in proximity to like where you're staying. So like, you know, if you're, because I'm loving, like I'm so curious. So I'll start somewhere and I'll end up like way, you know, but
Right.
I'll
Which
just
I
keep
did.
walking.
I actually love that about your travel photos where it's like, oh yeah, I went to Costa Rica, but I went to 5 cities in
Right.
Costa Rica, babes. Like we're moving
Right.
around.
I am around. Like I am literally like the devil of like curiosity killed the cat. Like I will find whatever whatever I'm curious about, I'm like, I will
It's about I am dead. Be
I am
good.
there. I don't find my business at all. Oh man. But yeah, so I think it's just being mindful of like, okay, how do I get home? You know, it's almost like the breadcrumb trail. Like sometimes I'm like, I really should have breadcrumb myself, like take a string and
Hmm.
like carry it with me or something. So
Right. Yeah, I
um
guess in a way that's what your photography is.
right,
It's all your
exactly.
little oh, that's so romantic. That's all your little breadcrumbs.
All my breadcrumbs.
Okay, so all these little notes and like apps that you give, I'm gonna throw in the description box for folks who
Yes.
might be looking into this. Do you know
Hmm.
like the brand of the fanny pack that you use?
I can
Or
get
like
it to you. I will
okay,
absolutely get it
cool.
to you. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
But there's
Um,
several out there, I'm sure.
okay. I wrote down just like flat fanny pack.
Girl,
Like
that's what
the
I've been called. I'm sure it has like a beautiful name, and I'm just like,
okay, because I'm like, just so you know, what do you need to Google to find the
what do you,
thing?
exactly?
Okay, so I want to get into the kit because maybe all you bring is a camera and that's okay. But for example, some of these trips you said you were on for 30 days, three
Hmm.
months. How in the world are you packing for this? Both one for the kit and then one for your clothes, and you're not dying with suitcases.
So that's one thing where if you're going to be, I mean, there's two ways to travel. There's probably multiple ways to travel, but for this sake, there's two ways to travel. You can be the person that carries a suitcase around with you. You know, put everything in your suitcase,
Oh
lug it
goodness, she's a
around,
backpacker.
all the
She's a
things.
backpacker.
Oh, you get a giant backpack.
Oh God, how are you fitting everything into a
So
backpack?
it is so funny because looking back on it, the way I had like three outfits, girl, three outfits,
Oh my
and you
goodness.
just washed it. You just washed it. Like
Yeah.
the thing is, three outfits, like so many pairs of underwear because you can, you know, that's the one thing where I was like, at all times, please, please,
Hey, because when we left for the LA fires, when we was like, oh shit, I think we need to pack, I packed so many.
every pair of underwear,
It was like, baby, I got 2 outfits and 30 pairs of drawers.
30 pairs
Like,
of drawers.
I'm gonna be good.
Yes. Like as long as you have drawers, you can conquer the world. Like as far as
Honestly.
as far as I'm aware.
Oh my God, that's so real.
So you just gotta. So I was the type, like, I was really heavy into like convenience. So the
Mm-hmm.
way I had zip off pants, you know,
Ooh, okay,
it was so,
yeah.
because I was like, okay, shorts and pants, and they were waterproof. So
Come on.
right,
Yes.
you just gotta be
Okay.
right.
I fuck with that. Like I feel like also that style has just become a lot more popular lately. Like
Exactly.
also the jacket that turns into the bag for the zippers and stuff like
Exactly.
that.
Absolutely.
But I feel like when we were kids, like that was like a lame white thing. Like only like
So
old
lame.
white dads are
Right.
like
You zip
zipping
off
off
your
their pants.
pants. Yeah.
But when we're actually thinking about like the convenience of it all, I think traveling is the perfect place
Yeah.
to have something like that.
Exactly. And it's, because it's like, to an extent, you still want to look cute, right? You want to have your photographer
Yeah.
check on. But at the
Period.
same time, like, convenience is such, especially when you're like out in the heat, if you're walking around all day. I was like, when I tell
Yeah.
you those pants, those shorts, those pants kept me in check, because I could like walk into the water and I could like use it as a
Yeah.
swimsuit if I wanted to, and it would dry in like 5 minutes later. Um, so yeah, and then I brought those microfiber towels that like literally fold up to like this small, and you pack it away, and so everything was like
Oh.
for convenience. Shoes, I had two pairs of shoes. I had my walking shoes, and then I had sandals just for like, I stayed in a ton of hostels. I know there's a lot of mixed feelings about hostels, but
Yeah.
I would personally say I love good hostel, because that's also where you meet people, but easy, especially if you're not going to be staying in your, home that long, like wherever you're staying is. I just needed it for like day and night,
To
like
sleep.
morning to
Right.
sleep, literally. So I'm like, yeah, I'll pay $5 a night to, bunk with
Yeah.
20 other
It
people
is
sometimes.
hella cheap and it's
Yeah.
very convenient for that. Do
Hmm.
you have any like a good tip for how to keep your things safe when you are staying in a hostel?
Yeah, absolutely. So majority of hostels have lockers. Some
Oh,
of them do offer their own locks, but I would say, just for safety reasons, that get your own lock, bring your own lock with
bring your
you.
own lock.
Um, and then yeah, like never like put things under the bed, never assume that like people aren't going to touch your stuff. Like
Mm,
always just lock it away. Just lock it away. And if you can't lock it away, ask the front desk, can I put this, behind here temporarily, or just take it with you. Just take it with you. Um, yeah, but
beautiful.
lock everything up.
Yeah. And then what about your photography kit? Do you only bring a camera?
So the photography kit, I try and make that as like convenient and compact as possible too. So there was one time where I just brought my camera, because I literally didn't have like it. I was flying some like ghetto airline where they were like, charging like damn near the same price for a carry-on, and I was just like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Like at the time, I was like, I can't afford that.
Right.
um, so I literally just took my favorite lens. No, I think I always carry like a 35 or a 35, and then in addition, either an 85 or like a 50.
Okay.
Um, and that's mostly just because like 35s are great, obviously, for like if you want to capture like the whole scene, landscapes,
Yeah.
all that. But 85 is so, I love an 85,
Me
because it's so
too.
intimate. It's so intimate. It's so personal. It's great for like, yeah, I don't know. Y'all know.
Yeah.
But that's one of my favorites. So, but I carry this if I'm not doing that. Like that was, I shouldn't have just put it in my bag with like my clothes and stuff, but I was like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna just make shift a little thing. I like, padded it up a little bit.
Yeah,
But
there you
if
go.
I'm not doing that, I have like a smaller bag that fits like just the camera body and like two lenses. So that was
Okay.
perfect, where I could just kind of sling it over my back. And
Mm,
it was kind of annoying to have to bring that in addition to my other bags, which is also why I recommend like as compact as possible. And like if you can, one lens. If not, like put your lens in like a safe space in your other bag.
mm.
But yeah, like minimal bags as possible, like minimal everything as possible. Like if like whatever you think your minimal is, cut it in half and like and do that. Because then too, like you really learn what's important and what's not. Where it's like, yeah, like having a new outfit every day of the week isn't like, it just doesn't make sense when you're traveling sometimes.
Right. What are you there for real? Those are the
Right.
best questions. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
is this just a vacation where you don't want to shoot at all, or are you
Right.
trying to be cute every day? Which one is it?
Exactly. Exactly. Are you trying to get in the thick of it? And if so, like,
Right.
get you some zip up pants.
I'm gonna have to make a LTK just for your episode alone. Like,
Please.
here's all of the outfits, all of the gear, everything you
Yes.
need.
I can hook y'all up. I know too much at this point. And if you want to talk about draws, like I can get like some like antibacterial. Like
Oh yes, wait, put us on. What
yes,
is that?
I'm forgetting what it's called, but they're not cute. Like boy, are they not cute, but they
Well,
work really well. They're like very like water resistant, like they're just like antimicrobial,
oh.
something like that. But they're great. They're great for like a hot day, you know. Like
Yeah, like if you're
oh,
gonna be walking around in a
mm-hmm.
hot town in
Yes.
South America for hours and hours, that's so smart. I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's amazing. I didn't know either until someone was like, "Have you heard of these?" And I was like, "Nope, but give me five, because
Have you ever done one of those hikes where you got to travel through water?
yes, yeah.
Mm.
And those are I honestly love those because it's usually when it's hot out too, it's such a nice like refresher.
Mm.
It is scary though when you're carrying equipment because it's like
Yeah.
I think my mind goes to like worst case scenario sometimes. I'm like, okay, like if I slip on this rock, it's like
Okay, like I need to keep my camera safe,
yeah. I'm like at all costs, like I'm like carrying my camera like it's like Lion
bro.
King. So yeah, keep
Okay,
it
I
safe.
got you. Okay, so last question before we move on to our next segments.
Yeah.
How do you make money in travel photography? I think this is probably the thing
Yeah.
most people want to know.
So to be honest, my where I'm currently making money from doesn't come from my travel photography. And
Okay.
I think for me personally, you know, everyone to each your own, but I never go into travel photography as a profit. I think for me because
Mm,
it's such a experience, it's such a like I do it literally just to feed my soul, to be completely honest.
that's so beautiful.
And I love sharing it. And I think how I like to do it is I go just to go, just for the stories, just to have that experience, to expand my mind, to expand someone else's mind. Um, so that's like my reason, my goal for it.
Yeah.
But coming home and if I'm sharing something, so I kind of say like majority of my prints or sorry, majority of my photos are technically available for prints. I don't
Mm.
necessarily market it for that way, but I've had, you know, when I came home from Morocco and South America, people like, oh, I would love, like, could you, you know, turn this into a print for me? And I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, absolutely. But I think with that though, I I just kind of open it up to like sure, you know, if you want to, but I'm not here to take photos to sell. I'm here for the
The
story,
experience.
the
Yeah.
experience, exactly. But I would say if that's the route you want to go, I've heard some really good things from other photographers of reaching out ahead of time to like something that you're interested in. So maybe it's like a tour guide company, maybe it's a hotel, maybe it's you know, like a soccer team, like whatever it is that you're interested in shooting, is reaching out before you go and just saying, hey, here, you know, I'm a photographer. Here's my work. You know,
Yeah.
could you use like I would love to help you update your website, or I would love to help you tell the story of you know X, Y, and Z, and kind of just like pitching abroad essentially.
Okay.
And there people have had some really good success with that of just sharing like, hey, I'm going to be here. Can I shoot? You know, and some people honestly just do it for like free food and lodging. You know, they're just like,
True.
I'll
Yeah.
take these photos if you know you hook me up with a space. So I think there's a lot of ways you can do it and pitch. So if that's your lane, like by all means, there's so much out there. And if not,
Beautiful.
like yeah, that's fine too.
Yeah, that makes me think it's like no matter in these kind of situations, you have to kind of be comfortable with negotiating in some kind of way.
Right.
I think even, you know, when you're shooting, especially if you're asking people to be photographed on the street or something like that, you're negotiating in that moment where it's like, is this okay with you? Depending
Mm-hmm.
on where you go, also some countries or some cities are so touristy that they're at a point where they just ask people for money, where it's like, yeah,
Right.
take a picture of me, but give me some money, kind of
Exactly.
thing. And if that's your thing, like, yeah, pay them people. You know
Right,
what I'm saying?
right.
Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, I think that's an interesting framework to be like, this is a negotiation, this is a conversation between
Hmm.
you and these home people, and
Exactly.
photographing. And honestly, in photographing, you're taking care of them. And I think that's how you
Absolutely.
should be thinking about it, at
Absolutely.
least.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because it really is, and that really goes to the point of you're taking care of these people, so get to know their story. Like, don't
Yeah.
create your own story for them. Like, tell their story. And that's why I love the photojournalism approach because the experience is your experience, through your eye, but the story isn't yours. It's not your story to tell. It's their story that you're asking permission to tell in some ways, which I also think is so. I actually had this great conversation with a professor one time, and this is like not the first time I thought about it, but the first time I really started to like think about it was and I'm forgetting this photographer's name, but this is when I first started to like even step into travel photography. I was just like Googling like travel photographers. Um, and majority of the photographers that were coming up were like white males.
Mm.
And his name was like Steven something. He's like a very popular travel photographer. Um, but he was going out and like taking photos of like very intimate like cultures. And it my professor made this point was like, how do we look at these photos from the eye of a white man? Like, and he didn't really share anything like about them. He didn't, share their stories. It
Mm.
was just, and that really made me think where I was like, yeah, like why, like at what point is this not okay? Where it's like, at what point do we need to stop and think like, why is it okay for someone to come in and tell someone else's like visual story
Mm.
without the context, without really get and like I guess I don't know his personal life. I don't know like if he was sitting down and talking to them, but from the looks of it,
Right.
it didn't seem that way. It seemed like it's kind of
Right.
just
You didn't share that.
exactly yeah, right. I was like, I don't know what your intention was there.
Right.
So it is, but you have to think about like as someone who's not from that culture, like really thinking about as I'm sharing this, if I'm going to share it, like who is it for? What story am I telling? Like, is this something that I should even be sharing? So just asking yourself those questions, I think that's so important. Of like, yeah, just recognizing like, is this my story to tell? And if not, don't maybe don't
Don't
share
tell
it.
it.
Like, you just
Right.
keep it in your head. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That makes me think about places that are really known for their architecture, kind of like
Hmm.
Morocco, where
Yeah.
it's just like, anybody who's ever seen it in person is like blown away.
Blown away.
And as a curious gal myself, I'm kind of just like, how do you see something like that and not Google it? Like, I'm immediately like,
Right.
how did y'all do this?
Literally, yeah.
And so I think even that goes into like, be curious about what you're shooting. And
Be
sometimes that means
curious.
talking to that person that you're curious about,
Mm-hmm.
or Googling or asking your tour guide or
Googling.
something. Like,
Right. Go read a book. Like there's so many and that's the thing too, is like if you are
go read a
go read a
book.
book. If you're someone that is timid to have those conversations, I think exactly that. Like find other ways to do it. Find other
That's
ways
so real.
to do your research. Like
I'm
that's
damn
it.
near gonna name the episode. Go read a
Go
book.
read a book. Okay.
Oh my God. Okay, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back, y'all. Today's episode is brought to you by Art House, the first Black owned film lab in the city of Los Angeles. All my photography homies love Art House because they specialize in C41, black and white, E6, and ECN2 processing for both 35 millimeter and medium format film, all while using a custom built cinema scanner to get you those stunning movie quality stills. So go pick up and drop off a roll at their new location in Chinatown and check them out at arthousefilmlab.com or arthousefilmlab on IG and tell them we sent you. Okay, so next segment is can I still say new segment? I've been doing it for weeks
New
now.
segment,
But
yes.
it's called Photographs Not Taken. It's based off this
Oh,
book. This book is a collection of essays from photographers where they talk about the photographs they never took. and however they perceive that. And that's a thought that I think about all the time. I think about
All
the
the time.
photographs that I have seen just in my life. I see photographs every day of my life, but some of
Mm-hmm.
them really stand out to me, and some of them I just wish I could have photographed. So it made me just want to talk to more people about the photographs they wish they could have taken. So I'm very curious,
Girl.
particularly on your travels. Is there
Mm-hmm.
a photograph you wish you could have taken that is plaguing your mind?
Absolutely. Honestly, the only thing in life that keeps me up at night is the photos that I didn't take.
That's so real.
I'm like, the way I would praise someone for like turning our minds into a camera to just like if I
Oh,
could like my best work.
it's in my mind.
And I'm like, if y'all could just,
If y'all could see,
if
oh
y'all
my,
could just,
oh, and that's why I wanted to talk about this because
uh,
I'm like, there are so many photographs that, like, if I would have taken,
and it keeps me up like nothing. I sleep peacefully except for that. So thank you, because I'm not gonna be sleeping for weeks now of this reminder. But no, I think on all like honesty note, I think it's so beautiful that like I always rant about this, but what makes you a photographer is not your camera, it's your eye. Like through and through. Like so what makes you an
yeah,
artist is not your pencil, is not your whatever it is, it's not it's it's you. You are the
yeah,
essence of, and your tool is just a means to bring that to life. And
there
so
you go.
our eye is really just like that is like you are a photographer because of your eye. You're an
Come
artist
on,
because of your eye. Like yes, anyone like that's true. Like anyone can take a photo, absolutely, but not everyone has the like this. Not everyone has it up here.
come on, you're reading our
So
minds because that's
right.
exactly what the next segment is about. But while we're still here, photographs not taken.
So man, there's so many. I can't think of like anything in particular, but I can remember like just the ways that I would see like lights and shadows fall on things and like see something in the moment where it's so quick and you're like,
Yeah.
like that would have been such a beautiful photo.
I feel like
Um,
there's a lot of shadow work in my mind that I see sometimes.
yeah.
Honestly, most of the ones for me that I wish I could have taken are of people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably like 50-50 split. Probably like I didn't have a camera, so I couldn't take the photo. Or I did
Mm-hmm.
have a camera, but like I was too nervous to
Right.
take
You like
it. Or
lost the
like,
moment.
right, the moment got lost, like I wasn't quick enough or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really usually what it is yeah, exactly that. Either I didn't have my camera or I was like waiting for the moment and the moment was like,
it was
there and
gone. Yeah.
there and gone. But I think that's such a it like keeps you on your toes as a photographer too, and it forces you and also like reinforces that like dope I am that photographer. Like it's in my head,
Period.
but but I saw it and I captured it somewhere. So
Man. The one
yeah.
that I'm thinking about today for me is two guys on a truck, like a old like beat up pickup truck, and they were just sitting in the back of the van, and I was driving by, so I couldn't take the photo, but
Mm-hmm.
they were looking at each other and talking and smiling, and everything around them kind of looked a bit like grungy, like they were wearing dark colors. The truck was a dark color, maybe like a dark blue, and it was like beat up, so there was like a little rusty everywhere. And even like the
That's
building
so amazing.
behind them was like a little gray or like a dark brown
Yes.
or something, but their faces were so bright and their smiles were so bright that like when I saw it I was like, oh my god. And then I just immediately, like, I'm driving past it and I was like,
Yeah.
damn, that was a lovely
Man.
photo. Like,
I feel it. Like I was there with you. I was like, you explained it. I was like, that would have been
man. Like, I was like, fuck, like this is so beautiful.
so
And also,
good.
I guess parts of me that feel, I mean, I always use the word plagued, but it's not a negative experience. It's just
You're plagued.
right. It's just constantly on my mind. But I
Yeah.
think I guess it feels plagued because I wish somebody else could see it. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's really that part. Like how like I think I
man,
feel selfish, not selfish, but guilty of experiencing
right?
something
Yeah.
so beautiful and not being able to
It's
share.
like, man, I y'all don't even know. Like this shit was fire.
It's amazing. That actually happened to me the other day where I felt sometimes I feel like shots are so perfect where I'm like, this has to be a simulation. Like we live in a
No, for real.
simulation. And don't get me started on simulations because we will be talking till the break of dawn if we
It's
get into that.
okay.
But there was one where this guy was walking and it was like, I love a texture. I love a good texture.
Yes.
So he was walking and it was like, I don't even know what time of day it was, but it was like this perfect, like diagonal shadow. And it was like making the bottom of the wall black. And then the other half was like this really pretty, like yellowish texture. And this
Mm,
man was walking past, like right as I saw him, he matched it like perfect. Like he had black pants on, like literally the exact same color shirt. Like the way that the light was hitting him
wow.
was like the most like cinematic. And I was like,
The
what? Like,
symmetry of it
what?
all.
And I was so sad. I was like, I cannot believe I didn't take a photo of that. Like,
Ugh, I love when things feel like that's all. It's too perfect.
too
It's like,
perfect.
and you
Too
don't even
perfect.
know the subject inside of our imagined photo. They
Right.
don't even know how perfect they're being in that moment.
Exactly.
Like, what a
Exactly.
word that is that like sometimes in your life you don't even realize that you are perfection.
No, and I think about that too of like imagine like the amount of times that we ourselves have been in anyone listening to this have been in that moment for someone else, whether it was like you were
Yeah.
just walking, you thought you was just having a regular day, maybe you were like in a fit that you didn't feel confident in, but someone saw you and was like, art.
Bitch. Okay. Yes. Hi,
So right, right.
Warren.
So I be thinking too. I'm like, I wonder if I've ever been in anyone's photo. You know, like an
I think
actual.
about that a lot too. Who randomly took a street photo of me and I don't
Right.
know? Or
Exactly.
like, am I in the background of some really cool photo or in the background of a
Exactly.
really cool video or something like that?
Right. Right. But just a cool thought. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. On to the next segment, which you touched on a little bit. This segment is called The Gear Don't Matter, but because I want to talk about our gear because I love the gear that we use and I think all of us do, it all matters.
hmm
But I say it doesn't matter because folks are always talking about the camera that us as photographers use, because they think it's like the most important thing that makes the photo. And it's just like you mentioned earlier, it's really not the camera, it's the eye.
The eye.
Um, so I want to shout out some of the gear, maybe your favorite piece of gear that you have. It doesn't have to be a camera at all.
Ooh, my favorite piece of gear that I have. That's a great question. Favorite piece of gear. I think I would have to go with a lens. I think I'm going to bring it back to my 85
I
lens.
was thinking that too.
It's just, um, I think it's just such a like, it's so intimate. Like, we just talked about this, but like harping on how intimate that lens is because it just locks you into exactly what you're looking at. And it's like can be a detail shot, but also like you can capture, even if it's a landscape. I've used my 85 for landscape and like just shot up close. Like I love a like abstract picture too, where it's like you can tell it's
Hmm.
a landscape, but it's like what part, what,
Yeah, like where
where
is this?
are
What's
we?
going
A
on? Yeah.
little bit of mystery. But I think as far as capturing people, like there's this like it's so interesting because I feel like how when we're just walking in the world and like observing everything, it's from like a 35 millimeter, right? It's a wide angle.
Yeah.
And but when you like see something, you're like this, like your eyes kind of focus in on the thing that you're looking at. And so it kind of becomes this like 35 zoom lens into like 85. And so I think for
Yeah.
me, I kind of see the world so often because I'm always observing. And like that's the thing about me is like
Same.
I am looking. Even if I don't look
Okay.
interested, like best believe I am observing everything, and not even in a
Yeah,
bad way. I'm just looking because I'm curious. Like I'm
exactly.
just. So I think how I see the world is already in an 85. And so my 85, like getting to
Mm.
capture things in an 85 is so special to me. So I'm like, it's as close as I can get to capturing like what I'm actually looking at. So I just have a special place for those
Yeah.
things.
We love an 85 millimeter.
We too.
And actually, before moving on to the next segment, I I just want to pull up your website real quick because we've been
Okay.
talking about travel this whole episode. But I want the girls to know that she doesn't only do travel, babes.
I don't.
Um, she does portrait, product, travel. Look at this mixed media art going on
Mixed
here.
media. Okay.
Like, come on. I just love your work so much. I think it's
Thank you so
incredibly
much.
beautiful. That texture we was just talking
The
about. Like,
texture. Girl, the Morocco had some texture.
okay, like there's a bit of street, there's a bit of portrait, graphic design. Like, I think you're such an incredible photographer, and I really
Thank you,
appreciate that
love.
you came to talk to us about travel photography specifically because I think it's like such an important one, especially for photographers who are just starting out and who maybe doesn't have like that much experience in traveling in general. So it's like
Yeah.
I'm going into this new experience traveling and I'm about to be photographing people. Like, how do I do this?
I do
Um,
this. Yeah.
but the talent, you know what I'm saying? It speaks for
Thank
itself.
you. I appreciate that. Thank you, boo. But yeah, I honestly like anyone watching, like hit me up if you have questions. Like I love to yap about my travels. So any chance like you give me a space to yap about it, pull up, please.
Good. I love it. Okay, so last segment is shoot your shot. So, who is a company or an artist maybe that you would love to work for? Because they're
That is
listening.
amazing question. It's so funny because I think like when I was in my travel photographer bag, I was so like National Geographic. You know, everyone's like,
Yeah.
I want to be a Nat Geo photographer. But I think now the more that I'm like it's still dope. Don't get me wrong. We love a Nat Geo post, but honestly, I think I would love to just meet like someone that's not even like status. You know, like I think
Mhm.
what I would love to tell is like someone's story that's not even about status, but it's just like can go into like their life and just talk about like their
Or
day
like
to
a
day.
real deep.
Yeah, just a really deep dive into like I'm even thinking about like my boyfriend Kevin. So his family's Dominican. We're going to the DR for the first. Well, I'm going to the DR for the first time in a couple months, and
Yeah.
we're meeting his family. And well, I'm meeting his family, and I'll be meeting his family. And there's so many people that I just want to talk to. And they're
Yeah.
like the way that they're like live their life and like there's so much culture in like the DR and like DR in Haiti and like that, you
Yeah.
know, and it's just like there's so many questions. And so honestly, like I'm gonna put his family in the spotlight because
That's so
yeah,
sweet.
I don't even want to work for that. I just like I want to tell their story and like and not even for like the world, but like just for like their family to have. So like keepsakes, like give them some archives of their life and their time and like just capturing moments for them. And you know, for me too to like get to know them on like a deeper level because I think that's how I connect too. Like I can connect through my photography. I can connect through, you know, seeing them and having those conversations. So it like doesn't really answer the question, but kind of like answer the question and the
No,
question.
I love this. So
But
obviously your boyfriend's family is listening. So y'all better let her
yeah,
photograph
better
y'all for the archive.
for
Okay.
the
We're doing
archive.
we're doing deep family work right now.
Exactly. Yes.
I love this idea. I mean, I just it's a testament to your photojournalism background too, where your curiosity is to learn more about the person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Yeah.
excited to be nosy and see what you make.
Please. Same. Cause you know my nose be all
Exactly.
in everyone's business.
I'm gonna come over your house like, okay, who is that?
Yeah, exactly. We know Chrissy love an archive.
Okay. So that's Thea right there. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. She's so beautiful.
Love it.
Oh my god, that's so beautiful. Shout out to the boyfriend. Look at you. You've
Yes.
made it to shoot your shot.
That's That's like a dual shoot. Just
Right.
I love it. I love it.
Oh my gosh, Dakotah, thank you so, so much for
Thank
coming today.
you.
I deeply, deeply appreciate all that you have given us. You dropped some gems. Can you tell the people where you would like to be found?
Honestly, I do not be posting much on my Instagram. I'm getting into it. 2025. I need to do some things, but find me on my website.
Period.
DakotahWhiting.com. That's where I post the majority of my work. And I think it just flows better there. I think my work is meant to be more seen on something like that. So
True.
you can find me there.
Beautiful. Find her on our website. You can find us on all of the socials at Photographer Life Check. You can also find us on, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube.
Hmm.
Definitely subscribe to us on YouTube. Photographer Life Check everywhere. We're getting our little
Everywhere.
YouTube bag, so we're on our road to 100. So follow us.
Okay.
But yeah, thank y'all so much for listening and tuning in, and we'll see you for the next episode.
Thank
Bye.
you.